And anytime from now, Heidi's going to be taking us through an incredible teaching on freedom from mental enslavement. I count it such a great honor to have Heidi here with us today, and you all are going to be learning something really awesome. Um, that, as always, will make a difference in how you show up, how you build your life, and how you become all that God has called you to be. All right, anyone else? What are
Amen.
you grateful for? What are you grateful for? And where in the world are you watching from? Whilst we wait, even though I'm interested in hearing your thoughts around mental enslavement, how did you come about this subject in the first place, Haiti?
Well, I think actually, and I'm going to talk about this later, but I think I came about it in a song from Bob Marley.
Oh,
um,
emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so sometime back, I began researching, wondering where it came from in that sense. And I learned more and more, and it really blew my mind. Because it's actually self-imposed, Aaron, and we can all
Mm,
just get rid of it, make the choice to get rid of it.
hmm.
But the awareness is key. We
That's
have to
true.
come into the awareness that we're enslaved by our mind, and then choose to rid ourselves from it.
Oh, wow. If you'll head that, you know we're about to have an interesting conversation around the mind. I'm always intrigued about the things that happen in the mind. So definitely, we're going to have an interesting conversation around that. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest, and we're just going to wait for, and then when people hop in, they're going to watch this later. Haiti is better known to her clients as Coach Slade. Haiti is native Texan, and who now proudly makes her home in Bishop Stratford, not far from me here in Hertfordshire. If you're in the UK and not living in Hertfordshire, I don't know where you are living. But anyway, she holds a, she holds a Bachelor of Arts in English and Political Science and a Master of Arts in International Business. And many years ago, Haiti's grandmom sowed a single pepper seed in an impoverished area in Callao, Peru, and she had no idea that her single seed of faith would ultimately reap a harvest, resulting in her daughter. And years later, her grandchildren to discover their sure footing and freedom on the path of entrepreneurship for life. Um, Today, she is indeed a professional seed sower and cultivator of high potential and excellence. Haiti's consultancy is known as Leadership Led, fosters a community oriented environment through masterminds and group coaching, which advances the power of strengths, leadership, and entrepreneurship for all. That's where she gets the word coach slave, strengths, leadership, and entrepreneurship. As a proud member of the John Maxwell President's Advisory Committee Council, and operating globally as a certified coach, corporate trainer, and motivational teacher. Haiti employs her natural connection and intuitive relationship building skills to provide it a holistic service primarily by discovering a better way for her clients to approach life's challenges effectively by directly challenging the status quo and empowering them to look at things from a fresh and different perspective, all performed with a solitary focus of contributing to global success and ultimately greater significance that spans across generations. Because of Haiti's entrepreneurial roots, inherently she knows that for what we are doing today to matter 100 years from now, it's all about that my favorite word, action, action, action. The action we put into our day-to-day legacy building that matters most. And this means there's immediate urgency in this and not a moment to waste. Right now is the best time to grow. Just reading that from your bio reminds me of one of my favorite quotes and something I live by, and it's by Rabbi Naaman of Braslav, and he says, I'm looking for it on my wall, but he says, if you want to be better today, if you want to be better tomorrow than you are today, what do
Mm.
you need tomorrow for? And it's something I always tell my clients. If you're not going to make up your mind that I'm going to be a better person, I'm going to be a better coach, a better individual, a better husband, then why do you need to show up tomorrow? Because anyone who is leaving here tomorrow and just being average is just taking up space. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Heidi Maduhu. Over the next 20 minutes, she's just going to open our minds into freedom from mental slavery, and I'll be back for a time of Q&A. Heidi, once again, it's an honor to have you here. And welcome to the Thrivers family.
Thank you so much, Coach Aaron T. Aaron. Oh my goodness, globally renowned speaker, coach, trainer, songwriter, worship leader, and mentor. My goodness, my friend, it's an honor. So thank you so much for having me today.
All right.
I am here, as you said, gratefully, to speak about the topic freedom from mental enslavement. So, what is freedom? I want to start with that. What is freedom? What does that encapsulate? Okay, many people, when they think about freedom, they think about the movie Braveheart. It's one of my favorite movies. The guy, he goes through the whole movie believing strongly in being free. And then in the end, he's willing to die for it, right? He's there about to lose his head and he screams, freedom! And we're all so invigorated by that. Those of us who are very passionate, like myself, in case you can't tell, we love that part. We're crying and we're inspired. We're motivated to do what we need to do in life, right? It's also my second value. If you've never taken the time to do a values exercise, I'm sure Coach Aaron, as a John Maxwell team certified coach, can take you through that exercise. But our values are the lens in which we see the world. And so my second value is freedom. And why? Well, legacy. We go back to my grandmother, like Coach Aaron said at the outset. She was desperately impoverished, Abuelita Pascuala, desperately impoverished. My mother grew up with dirt floors, no running toilets. And her mother made a choice one day that she was going to free herself from mental enslavement. She was going to make a difference for not only herself, but her children, her community, and little did she know, her children's children's children. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Freedom from mental enslavement is about more than me. It's about more than you, Funky. Thank you so much for the welcome. It's about more than us as individuals. It's about the legacy. It's about the long-term ramifications of our actions or inactions, like Coach Aaron was speaking about, that we casually go through life day to day thinking doesn't make that much of a difference, but I'm here today to tell you that it does. A huge difference. So, where does the term mental enslavement or mental slavery come from? I was telling Coach Aaron at the beginning of the call that it came from, I thought it came from the Bob Marley song. But ultimately, in my research, as I began to look into things, I found that the term was actually coined by an African-American entrepreneur by the name of Marcus Garvey. He originated from Jamaica, and he immigrated to New York in 1916. And in his classically famous speech in 1938, he said these words, powerful, powerful words. We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. Did you catch that? I'm going to say it again. None but ourselves can free the mind. Only we can do it. Only I can do this. Mind is the only ruler. It's sovereign. The man who cannot develop and use his mind, his or her mind, equal ops, his or her mind, is bound to be the slave of the other man who uses his mind. A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Powerful. Okay, so that was Marcus Garvey, and he was a 3-time African-American entrepreneur back then in 1916, which I'm sure he had to do significant amount of ridding himself from mental enslavement just to be able to get himself to that point where he believed it would be possible. So I love that I can start off today talking to you about a quote directly from Mr. Garvey. So now that we've been inspired by Marcus's words, how do I know that I have been enslaved by my own mind? How do I know that I'm suffering from mental slavery? Because awareness is the first key. That's how we find out whether that's me. Am I talking to you? Let's find out. Okay? Maybe you were potentially a victim as a child, and this is how it came about. Like myself, I was a victim of sexual abuse as a child. And as a result of that abuse, as time went on, I believe I developed a kind of a spirit of, I don't really matter. My suffering doesn't count. Okay, which then developed into teenagehood and adulthood in a very negative way. Perhaps you wake up discontented and agitated, and you can't figure out why. The job's all right. The boss is okay. The pay's pretty good, but you're just discontented and agitated in life. You could be enslaved mentally. What you've done to yourself. We're going to cover it. How are you going to get out of that? Okay? Perhaps you have a dream that you know you are supposed to be living. Even from childhood, you wanted to do this thing. You wanted to be this person. But you let it die because of the voices. I'm talking about internal voices, y'all. Yes, I'm a Texan. I say y'all, even though I've been living in England all this time. I just can't help myself. They'll never get the y'all away from me. It's the inner voices that keep coming. And there's outer voices too. This extends to other people as well who can help, or should I say, detract from the goals and the ultimate potential that you're meant to be living in this life. And who are these people? What are they saying? Well, within the John Maxwell team, Coach Aaron knows this well. We teach and train on the law of environment within the 15 invaluable laws of growth. In the law of environment says, as a law, this is a law, that people you habitually associate yourself to and with contribute to 95% of your success and your failure. And why? Birds of a feather flock together. We just can't help ourselves. We want to be around other people that are like us. It makes things easy. It allows us to excuse mediocrity and average. Perhaps you might be a person who blames other people for your circumstances in life. That used to be me. Maybe you've said something like, you know, I would actually have had that promotion if it weren't for that person who got in my way and stopped me from doing what I was called to do and doing what I know I could have done. If only that person hadn't had stopped me. You could be that person. Okay, so maybe you've identified yourself in some of the things that I just said. So what, Heidi? You're saying? What does that mean to me? How can I break free from mental enslavement? How do I go about it? Well, I'm going to give you a real easy acronym. It should be easy to remember because it's free. FREE. It's free as in gratis, and I'm not charging y'all for this. And it also is free, literally. The F stands for faith. Okay? Faith in God and faith in ourselves. That's what we necessarily must have if we want to break free from this enslavement. I had a wonderful example in my mother. I hope you did as well. If not, there's other examples that you can find in your life, I'm sure of it, to help you along on this path. But my mother was a single mother, and she worked 3 jobs, and she went to school full time, and I saw her always, and even now, as strong as a rock. But anytime I asked her, what is your secret? How do you do it? I mean, what you're doing seems impossible, Ma. I even say that to her today. She always says, it's not me. It's God. Remember that. Because alone and in myself, I'm nothing. Now, I was privileged to watch Reverend Billy Graham preach when I was just a teenager, when he was still alive. May he rest in peace. And I came to know Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And it was the greatest decision of my life. And he's been there for me through all the highs and lows of my life. But I know that that's not everybody's story. And so for those of you that this is making you uncomfortable, perhaps, you're not a person of faith like me and Coach Aaron, and you're thinking, hey, this isn't me. This doesn't help me. Hey, how about having faith in yourself? As Christians, we believe that we are made in the image of Christ. And if that's the case, then our reasoning faculty is supreme. We can reason our way out of enslavement. First step is, as I said earlier, identifying. Is that you that I spoke about earlier? Is that you? Yes, I see elements of that in me. Good. You realized it. You've accepted it. Awareness. Now you want to move into change and growth, which is what we are all about in this community. Transformation is what the Thrivers community is all about. That's what we're about here. So if you want to do that, believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. Okay? So what is R? What is R? Moving on in the acronym. What is R? Relationships. Relationships. When Coach Aaron asked me to come on the Thrivers show, my answer was yes before he even had the words out of his mouth. Why? Because if 95% of our success and failure is dependent on the people that we surround ourselves with, then when someone that is, smarter, faster, and better, and that much further along in the journey than I am, says to me, come and be on the Thrivers show, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Okay? And then when you join a community like this, or when you say yes to an opportunity like I did to share and add value, do you say to yourself when you come into this community and you're looking in the comments, you're saying, are these people growing? Are these people learning based? It's often said that leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but leaders are definitely readers. So I hear what you're saying, though. I know what you're thinking before the words are even out of your mouth. Fine, relationships. Yes, that's great, Heidi. I'm going to go and make these relationships. But what about people that are already in my life? that aren't learning based. Perhaps they're stuck in the old ways. They don't want to change. What can I do? How can I change them? Well, John Maxwell always says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So as you begin to transform before their very eyes, they're going to want to see more of that. They're going to want to know, where is that coming from? You can say, I have embarked on a journey of personal growth and development. I want to invite you in. Come join my group. Come join Thrivers. Come join my mastermind. We're reading, come join my book club. We're reading a book together, and we're going to talk about the chapters every week. That's how you're going to begin to make change in your existing community. Maybe a spouse, maybe some friends that are very close to you. You can't force anybody. The old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. This is true. But as they begin to see you transformed, they're going to want some of that. How can I get me some of Coach Aaron T. Aaron's juice? Yes. I say yes. Okay? E. The next E. Equip. Okay? So we did F, faith. R, relationships. E, equip. Okay? What do I mean by equip? Well, we have to prepare ourselves for the rough times, because yes, I can have faith, I can have relationships, but it's not going to be an easy journey. Personal growth is the hardest journey that I believe I've ever embarked upon. The law of the mirror and the 15 invaluable laws of growth takes you looking directly at yourself, which, to be honest, y'all, can be quite frightening at times. Because leading myself is the hardest thing that I've ever attempted to do in my lifetime. But how else can we begin to guard ourselves up and equip ourselves for this difficult journey ahead? Well, we can counter the voices, the inside and the outside voices, by researching our history and our accomplishments. Ours personally, the things we've done when our back was against the wall, and also others that are in our ancestral line. Remember what Mr. Garvey said. Without knowledge of history, origin, and culture, we're a tree without roots. We're wandering around aimlessly. And aimlessness is a vice, as we all know. Okay? And I've done this myself. I'm not just telling you to do something that I've never done before. I'm so grateful that in 1995, my Uncle David did my ancestral history on my father's side, the Bishop's side. Bishop was my maiden name. And what he identified from that search, years and years and years before I ever lived in England, is that my great-great-great-grandfather, yes, going all the way back to the 1500s, was Sir William Harris. And P.S., he was the High Sheriff of Essex, appointed by King James I in the 1500s. And he had entrepreneurship in his blood, because he actually established with his son the Virginia Company of London, which then went and settled in Jamestown in the United States on the East Coast. Guess what? Guess where I live now? About 15 minutes from the Essex border. So basically, I own all of Essex due to my ancestral line. It's not true, but I like to tell myself that when I am attempting to equip myself, when I need to say to myself, rise up, you can do it, you will do it, I'm able to do that because of those roots. I live that quote from Mr. Garvey. I can go back in history. My grandmother from Callao, Peru, who made herself what she did, pulled herself up out of poverty by planting that seed. My great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Sir William Harris, who did so many great things from an entrepreneur standpoint. That's in my blood. That's in these here veins. Nobody can take that from me. So I want to invite you to do the same. Now, before I run out of time, I want to tell you about the last E. Very important. That's E for empower. Okay, this is a critical step, which many people forget. This is about multiplication. Once we become freed, okay, so this is my business hashtag, grow freed. Once we grow freed, we use the vehicle of personal growth to break free, release those chains. We then have to give power and authority to others to be able to do the same. Breaking off those chains forever, for the history, for the legacy. So once we commit to that, we need to always be thinking, who can I mentor today? Who am I going to be adding value today? First thing in the morning when you wake up, looking at your busy schedule. Who can I add value today? What kind of day-to-day legacy am I building by my everyday actions or inactions? For those of us who, like the rabbi said, are thinking about tomorrow, with the quote that Coach Aaron encouraged us with at the outset. What am I going to leave behind? Did Sir William Harris, great granddaddy, did he know the influence that he was going to leave on his granddaughter all these years later? Probably not. But I have to say, I, for one, am glad for his life, because he, by the very nature of who he was, the actions he took, he has empowered me today to be who I am and who I'm growing into on a daily basis. Now, you don't have to have had a high sheriff in your ancestral line to make a difference. Anybody can change their world. So I want to encourage you, stay connected to this community and continue to come every Monday for growth and development. Because as John Maxwell always tells us, personal growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Thank you so much, Coach Aaron. You're the man.
Wow. Wow, love it, love it, love it, love it. And you really do sound, and even the way your presentation comes across, a John Maxwell, a John Maxwell, a John Maxwell speaker. I mean, even just love how you've set that up. So let's once again, it's a pleasure to have you on tonight. And I'm sure a lot of people, I think it's a bank holiday, normally would have more people, but I'm sure a lot of people would listen to this over and over. So tell us a little bit, because that seems to be a very key part of your story. So tell us a little bit about this, your claim to your entrepreneurial birthright, and how that singular seed your grandma planted in Peru, in working 3 jobs and eventually amassing financial freedom through real estate. So how has that, because you could have 2 children living in the same house and or come from the same lineage and that not transfer, so talk to us a bit about what was it about that whole experience that inspired you so much to today want to leave for entrepreneurship?
Thank you for that question, Coach Aaron. I would completely agree with what you said. I think that, the same thing can be happening ahead of time and live, and 2 people experience it totally differently. Okay. And in fact, that happened in my home. I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister, and I was the eldest. And my brother, who was next underneath me, 15 months apart, he has now amassed financial freedom. He is one of the top 30 real estate brokers in the entire state of Texas. Nice, and nice. He has been on his entrepreneur journey for 15 years. And so I'm a little bit late to the entrepreneurship party. And why, Coach Aaron? That's because I somehow got enslaved mentally, and I haven't yet figured out how this happened. And I'm still doing some deep diving into my own self with the law of the mirror to try to figure it out so that it can help other people. But basically, I developed some kind of thinking in my mind which said, being rich is bad.
Mm.
And I can remember even 5-10 years ago, my mother, who is now a very successful property entrepreneur, very successful, and him, my brother Carl, having conversation about business. And they were talking, and like usual, I was shut off. I was not listening. And I remember my brother challenged me and said, "What? I mean, how come you're not a part of this conversation? We could use your wisdom." I was always educating myself, reading books, going to school. I had multiple degrees. And I said to him, "You and Mom are you're the money-minded people. I'm the one who likes to help people." So I kind of wore that like it was, some kind of badge of honor. I'm the good one. So what I was saying was effectively they were the bad ones, and I was somehow better than them. And again, Aaron, I have no idea how that came about because we grew up in the same household. We saw our mother, come to the United States with nothing as an immigrant and become financially free using the vehicle of property. And as I said, she grew up with dirt floors and no running water or toilet. And somehow that transmuted into my brother underneath me to do the same, be an entrepreneur and do greater than she had done from a financial standpoint. But for me, it meant working nonprofit charity roles, overworked and underpaid, stay in the shadows, never lead. If anybody asked for my opinion, kind of hide away and say it to my friend who, I was really close with, but like I don't want to ever have a spotlight on me. And Aaron, I think all of that came from pride, really, because like I said, I thought I was better than them. And I'll put it out to you right now. I'm sorry, Carl and Mom, if you're watching. I thought I was better, and I kind of wore that as a coping mechanism for why I was broke and I had nothing. And so I had to learn that this lesson that I'm teaching you, this is a lesson that I applied to my own life. That's why I'm so passionate about it. I had to learn that I was not a slave, and I had to break those things off in my life to be able to move forward.
Wow. So are you able to talk to us about where did the switch happen for you? Where do you think the switch happened for you and you thought, hang on a minute, why am I living my life this way? Where did I get these ideas from? Where did I get these thoughts from? How come I've been so enslaved for so long with this wrong thinking? So where did that switch happen for you?
I know exactly where it happened. John Maxwell Team International Certification 2018. I had twisted my brother's arms. Both of them are very, very busy in real estate. They never take holidays. They never get away. But I had twisted their arms to fly from Texas to meet me in Orlando. I flew from England, and we met there together, the three of us, and undertook the International Maxwell Certification. And I can remember just before the table talk when we were about to give our speech, somebody at the table saying to me, "What do you intend to do with this certification, Heidi, when you go back to England? Are you going to use it somehow? Are you going to start a business?" And at that time, I was still working for the charity that I had been working in this country for 5 years full time. And I said to that person, "No, I don't have any business plans," because you see, I was still enslaved. "I don't have any business plans. I'm just going to go back and pour all of this rich content into my employer. And I'm going to help them get better. And I'm going to advance the vision and the leadership and everything about the organization that I work for when I get back." And I can remember this person, Rich Arriaga. If you're listening, brother, I thank you. He put into my awareness right then, "What about you? What about you?" And I was like, what do you mean, what about me? He's like, "That charity sounds great and they're doing fantastic work. But what about you? What are you building for yourself? And for your children? You said you got kids," because I brought both of my kids with me to Florida as well. My mother came so she could take care of them in the hotel while I was on the sessions. So what about your kids? What are you building for them? And so Rich switched on my awareness. Okay, so I would class him under the relationships acronym that I gave. That community, that environment of the John Maxwell team that I put myself in purposefully allowed me to meet Rich Arriaga, who then switched something in my brain to change my life forever.
That's so good. That's so good. I can't even begin to tell you how many lives have been changed at the international, at the IMC. I got to the IMC, had no clue anything about speaking and coaching. I thought I was just going to hang out and get to meet my mentor, John Maxwell, and have some good food. And my life was changed forever since 2016. So your mother migrated from Peru at the age of 16 to the US, searching for the American dream.
Yep.
And you've talked about the influence that had on you. And then you now see yourself migrating to the United Kingdom.
Yes.
Do you see yourself able to perform the same kind? I wouldn't say there's an English dream, but do you see yourself perform the same type of feat? You know, all of a sudden you look up so much to your mom and your grandmom, and so when we look at your kids, your young kids, does it feel like this tall order? What does it feel like for you with your children? Do you feel like your children need to rise up and look at you like your grand? How are you managing all that expectation? Sometimes we put that expectation on ourselves. What is it like for you?
Whew, yeah, that's a rough one, my friend. Now you put me under the hammer now. But yeah, I love it. Yeah, I do. I do wear that expectation, and I do expect that I will supersede and surpass what my mother has done. Maybe not my brother Carl. If he's listening, he's a very competitive, high D type of person, so he might start blazing up the chat going, "You ain't never gonna beat me."
So why not? So not you get back into your head to say maybe not.
But my mother, for sure, because she, I recognize it even now. And Mom, if you're watching this, I love you. But I recognize it even now. As much as she's amassed and as much as she's achieved, she still suffers from significant self-limiting beliefs. She's not enslaved because she knows the power of freeing herself from mental enslavement. She did it, you know. But she still, I think she could have, quadrupled what she's done now. She could have ventured into different parts of the world with her business even farther. But it's the self-limiting beliefs which prevent her from doing so. So that's another good point that you raise, because if we free ourselves from mental enslavement, it doesn't mean that it's forever. Think about when we think about, Aaron, when we think about we're people of faith. When the Israelites came out of Egypt, remember, once they got out there, they were free. Like me and you, we're freed now mentally. We know that we can do and have whatever we want to set our minds to, right? And, the Israelites, perhaps they were happy as well. Like, now I'm free and I can, do whatever I want to do. I can speak, act, and feel how I like, and I don't have to be living in bondage anymore for the Egyptians. But remember what they said. We want to go back to Egypt.
Can you imagine?
We're better off back in Egypt. So it is a constant battle having to beat down these thoughts, these inner voices and the outer voices that I mentioned during my talk that are coming in and attempting to invade and attempting to keep us from our ultimate potential. So to answer your question, I know it's a long way about your question. Absolutely. Not only do I feel the need and the responsibility to advance what my mother has achieved, I'm encouraging my children to do the same. I coach them on a daily basis. I coach them to think for themselves on a daily basis. And so I look forward to watching them, should God give me that many years, to see them grow into adulthood and achieve the things that they're meant to achieve in life. I look forward to seeing what they're going to do.
Good stuff. So you mentioned the acronym FATE, equip, empower. What was the R again?
Relationships.
Relationships. I thought as much. All right, good stuff. So when you look at the story of those before you as a coach or the people you work, you must come across a lot of people who, because this is what happens to me every day, you come across a lot of people who are not living their lives on purpose.
Right.
And there's the you who believes that they can be anything they want to be, but they are living their lives doubting themselves more than just really doubting themselves, So, and then there comes you as a life coach. You've already talked about what prompted you to get into life coaching. What exactly happens for you when you hear clients or people who there's so much more they can be, they can do? What are you able to describe that feeling that happens in you that makes you feel, look, I can help you. You can do much better with your life.
Yes, I'm able to transmit and transmute this message, which is the message of my life, effectively, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, into delivery of coaching. So, as you said at the outset of our time together, Coach Aaron, you said, I live to advise my clients of a better way by challenging the status quo. Now, everybody has a status quo. Okay, so I'm an accountant, and I'm an accountant because my dad was an accountant, and now I have to be an accountant. And so I would say to a client like that, do you really? Because that's their status quo. That's what they've accepted about their life. Not to say there's anything wrong with accountants, y'all. great career, but I'm just using that as an example. I'm an accountant, and I don't have a choice. Or the lady that I recently met who works in parking enforcement, I went up to her this week, Aaron. I introduced myself and I said, I've seen you around. I said, what's your name? She said, why do you want to know? And I said, because I admire you. You're a lady and you're in parking enforcement. Don't really see ladies choosing this career too often. I'm interested. How did you get involved in this career? You know what she said? She said, I kind of just fell into it because I needed a job, and because I was lower educated, I figured there was nothing else I could do. So she fell into it by chance. And then when I said, well, if you want to, I challenged the mindset. I'm coaching live on the street. That's what we do, Coach Aaron. I challenged the mindset and I said, but if you wanted to be something else, you could, right? You know that, right? And she said, no, not for me. Not for me. And so it frightened her that I was challenging her status quo right there on the street. She doesn't know me. She's not she's not a coachee. She's not a friend. I just met her on the street. So probably I can understand why she felt maybe a little bit threatened by my approach, especially here in England. We don't do that here in England, Coach Aaron. Yeah. We don't approach people on the street. But I think that's how I go about it with my clients. Trying to peel back those layers. And sometimes there's layers, my friends, like starting all the way back to 2-year-olds. And we have to pull off. It takes months, maybe even years to really have success with that kind of good work. That's why partnering with a good coach like Coach Aaron can get you the success that you're looking for.
Wow, amazing. And so if there's that one person, if there's that one person who's listening to you talking about coaching, and it's very clear, it's very easy to see your passion with one as a coach. What's that one thing you could tell people to look? You need a coach. Everybody needs a coach. I tell my clients that even a coach has a coach, and a coach without a coach is a cockroach. So what would be that one thing you want to tell people who are listening on why everyone really should have a coach?
Well, I think the main thing around that is when it comes to the law of the mirror, which we learn in the 50 Valuable Laws of Growth, looking at yourself is frightening. And often You can't see yourself when you're in the frame. So
Yeah.
you might look in that mirror and go, I look all right. I look kind of good, actually. I'm looking kind of good. And so you're not even realistically summarizing what you see before you, because we always give ourselves a pass, don't we, Aaron? We
Yeah.
always say, I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying my hardest. I'm working hard in relationships with our spouses, with our kids. We're always the first ones to give ourselves a pass. That's why you need a coach, because a coach is going to be the one to say, actually, what we agreed last time was that X, Y, and Z was going to happen. So how are we going to handle accountability in this relationship? I think that's care balanced with candor. So we can be caring and empathetic and sympathetic and all of those good synonyms. But also a hugely critical part of being a coach is that accountability piece.
Yeah.
Because without it, we as human beings have the greatest tendency to say tomorrow.
Yep.
Like in the rabbi knew it, tomorrow I'll get there. Tomorrow, someday. You hear people say that someday.
Yep.
Or they say to me in a coaching session, I'm going to try to do that between now and when we talk again. I'm like, no, try is not a part of our vocabulary in these sessions.
Yep. Yep.
Trying, no. Doing, yes.
Trying,
when you partner with a coach, you can have that.
That's good. In my experience, I mean, just like yourself, DISC certified, and in my experience, having done DISC, the personality test, for many, many, many clients, you'll find out that many people seem not to have a good understanding of themselves. So why do you think this is, and what do you think are the effects of people not being fully aware of their personality profile, of their strengths, of their values, which you even mentioned, which is one of those things that we all want to be as a good coach. You want to be able to help your clients understand their values, understand their strengths, and get to understand their personality profiles better. So why is this not so clear for people to actually even go try and figure out for themselves? Do you know?
Well, it's because we can't see ourselves clearly. We look at ourselves and we see a version of ourselves, but when Aaron looks at me, he sees something totally different. So the risk is that you think you're a good manager, but you're actually not. You're exhibiting poor leadership. And it's like the spinach in your teeth. If you had a coach, they could come and go, there's a little bit of spinach in your teeth. You know that? I'm not going to pick it out for you. You might want to go to the mirror in the bathroom and take care of that. But most people, your friends and your family, they're not going to tell you about the spinach in your teeth because they love you, and sometimes it serves them for you to stay where you are. It serves them for you not to grow because they might be afraid. How might the relationship dynamic between me and Aaron change if he becomes somebody different, if he's transformed by working, with Aaron as a coach? That makes me nervous. I don't like that because change, none of us like change. We like the benefits that come with change, but when we're actually experiencing it, we don't like it. And so that's why it's really good if we can partner with coaches in that way. And coaches know the benefit of this more than anybody else. So that's why I love that quote, a coach without a coach is a cockroach. I think it was Coach BC that said that quote. When I heard it the first time, and I loved it then and I love it now. But it's so true. We've seen the power in it, so we can't help but insist on it for our own lives.
Do you know what? I'm going to try as much as possible not to keep you up for so long. For everybody who's watching, Heidi has graciously offered to be on here tonight. Her husband isn't feeling too well, and she's got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I'll do my best to make sure. So if you have any questions, hey, put them out there. But I'll do my best to make sure I don't keep you out for so long, such that your husband can release you another time. So in my experience, not many people understand the importance of life coaching. And I'm constantly being accused of brainwashing.
Really?
Brainwashing, yeah. Um, if you were to describe life coaching and why people needed it, what would be your sales pitch? So let me see, maybe I'll learn something from you.
Um, the way that I describe it, put simply, is you're entering into a very strategic thought partnership with me. Okay, so and then one person might say, well, I have my husband for that, I have my wife for that, and it goes back, and then I can counter with, or not counter, because this isn't a debate. If you don't want coaching, we're not going to sit here and go back and forth. I'm going to go on to the next person who wants coaching and realizes how much it'll benefit them. But I can counter with, your husband or your wife, they, back to the spinach analogy, they love you. So they may be seeing you with tinted colored glasses, and or it might not benefit them for you to advance yourself, because that represents change, and again, change is scary for the average individual. So this is why you need someone who is unbiased, who really doesn't maybe even know you, and can sit on the outside looking in to the glass and say, these are the things that I have witnessed about you and your leadership style and the way that you lead at home, the way that you lead within your community. These are the things that I'm seeing highlighted that you might want to work on together in a growth plan with me, which we will do from this point to 6 months from now. And I guarantee that the person that you are now, you won't even recognize 6 months from now. That's the power of coaching.
Yep, that's true. So coming from South America and with your parents who lived in the USA, and I assume, obviously, you've told us how you lived in the States as well before marrying and coming over here. Do you see a great cultural divide in the UK, the USA, South America, in terms of what do you see as difference in terms of attitudes, and especially attitudes towards entrepreneurship?
Oh man, I could talk about that all day. Oh my goodness.
Go on, give it to us.
Absolutely. I'll start with South America, where my mother's from. South America is a very patriarchal society, and it's what I understand very similar to Africa in many ways. But it's, the man is the head, and when my grandfather famously used to speak, we all had to shut up. Like nobody better be talking while Abuelito was speaking, and let alone praying, because if you were talking during the prayer, you might get smacked. So, growing up in the United States, which was a totally different culture all the way around, was difficult for me, particularly because going to Peru and understanding the patriarchal society that it was, I kind of felt torn in two, being half American and half Peruvian, because my daddy's side was from North Carolina, and all the way from my great grandfather, William Harris. They eventually settled in North Carolina, so they were white, blonde hair, blue eyes. This traditional American family. And then South America, obviously very mestizo, Native American, and so very, very different cultures. And in terms of entrepreneurship, I mean, in Peru at that time, when my grandmother decided out of desperation to start planting some pepper seeds so that she could, get some running water and, be able to build up on her house because they were living in the dirt. Entrepreneurship at that time was unheard of. I mean, nobody dared do anything like that. And so she was a pioneer. She was doing things that everybody laughed at that time. And now things have changed. You have more people attempting business and doing partnerships across Northern America, and that's great. But in terms of the culture, I think in Peru, largely back then for sure, and even some remnants now, entrepreneurship is largely looked at as a pipe dream. And, when my mother was only 5 years old, she told her father, my abuelito, that she was going to come and live the American dream. And famously, he just patted her on the head and was like, "That's okay, hijita. Like, yeah, sure you are." He didn't, because it was just that foreign of an idea that somebody could come out of that impoverished circumstances and go to the greatest country in the world, which they all thought at that time it was, and literally become the embodiment of the American dream. That was an impossibility for somebody from where she was from to do. And so, of course, now moving in my mind to the United States, my friend, I mean, the history of our country is just such that, everybody knows what the American dream is. That means anybody, including my mother or anyone, can arrive at that country, my tis of thee, and become whatever they want to become. That's the dream that's on sale. And it is real because I've seen it actually take place in the life of my mother and now my brother as well. So Americans generally look at entrepreneurship as, yeah, achievable, definitely achievable. But I will say culturally, it's not taught in schools. At least it wasn't when I was growing up. And I'm sure the same is in Peru. And, I don't know if things have changed in the school system now, but when I was growing up, it was very much encouraged. You graduate, you go to university, you get that degree, you get a job, and you work until the day that you die. Make sure you pay your taxes and make sure you say your Pledge of Allegiance while you're at it. But that's your only option, kind of a thing. And so entrepreneurship, when I was growing up in America, was quite foreign. Although I did begin to see my mother build a business and, buy one home and then another home and then rinse and repeat until she had many across the United States. And so, she made it possible one at a time, one step at a time. She made it possible for me to see, like, yeah, this is something that is not a foreign concept. And then coming into England, coming on to England, my friend, wow. Cultural differences. Now, I tell you, I've been living here for 10 years. I still haven't yet acclimated to the ways of the English. I would say I still struggle to understand them. And, I do kind of say, I kind of like wear my heart on my sleeve with that and say, maybe it's just because I'm a foreigner. I don't get the ways. But then I always go back to my granddaddy. I'm like, he was actually from here. I mean, these veins have English blood in them, so I should be able. Maybe it's Peruvian blood taking over. I don't know. I'm like, I should be able to get with this culture, which is a very reserved culture, as I'm sure you know, very reserved in comparison to my two cultures, American and Peruvian, the complete opposite, and yet very polite. But in terms of business and entrepreneurship, it's an interesting one because, this is a great country, the British Empire, a lot of history when it comes to business and investment and entrepreneurship. But, they very much do things the way things have always been done. So that's why people that are outside of the box and somewhat crazy and innovative like me are kind of like, not like you said, I'm not sure what you're doing. I don't know if you're brainwashing or what this is, but I don't like it because they're just different. Not wrong, just different. And what I've found in my experience in terms of, likening myself to British people, I married a Brit too, by the way, is that my husband always makes this joke, they're like cats and we're like dogs. So they're like cats in the way they're very reserved and they kind of decide on their terms when they want to let you in. And I have very much found that to be the case. Once you're in, you're in. Okay, once they trust you or somebody in their inner circle vets you, you're in. But that might take some time. Just because you
Yeah.
come in smiling and ready to give everybody a hug doesn't mean that that's going to get you what you want within 2 seconds. It
Yep.
requires a lot of patience and a lot of, just staying on task and being professional and doing all the, showing up to the chamber meetings and doing all the things that we need to do to begin to establish that trust and connection to really see it be able to pay off dividends. That's been my experience anyway.
Yeah. That's actually that's actually a very interesting observation. So let's look at this thing around mental enslavement. And based on the environment you're born into, how can you know that you're mentally enslaved? Because for some people, that dysfunctional environment that they've lived in, that they've been born into, can become their norm, actually becomes their norm.
Yeah.
Here in the United Kingdom, you have a generation of families that have been living on a welfare like for years. Their kids believe that that's the norm.
Yeah.
People who've seen their parents go to work on a 9 to 5 believe that that's the norm. How can one break away from that prison that you don't even know that you're in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, as I said, the first key is awareness. So if you don't know that you're in prison, like you said, how can you begin to make your way out of somewhere that you don't know you're in? I think going back to what I said at the outset, which is if you had a dream which seems to be shut down by everybody around you. So everybody in your family who's been on benefits for the last 20, 30 years is saying to you, that entrepreneurship dream you have, that's foreign, that's a strange concept, that's never going to work. If you're hearing a lot of that rhetoric, then it becomes time to begin to challenge those assumptions. If not challenge them, challenge yourself and go, do I really believe this? Do I believe that, living on benefits and my children living on benefits, or because it always ties back to legacy. If I'm living on benefits and my parents did, then assumably my children will and my grandchildren will. Do I really believe that that is my story? Do I really believe that that's going to be the story of my children and my grandchildren? So begin to ask yourself questions. If you're a little bit nervous about coaching, coach yourself in the beginning, at the outset, and begin to ask yourself questions. Why do I think like that? Who told me that? Why did I begin to believe that? Like I told you, Aaron, and I'm still on a self-discovery journey with this one. Somehow, we grew up in the same house, but somehow I became of the understanding that being wealthy and rich and financially free was bad and evil. And it wasn't something that I wanted. So when Rich dropped that awareness in my mind, prior to that, I had no reason to believe that what I was thinking was wrong. Nobody had ever challenged that mindset. Nobody had ever dropped any awareness like that into my mind. And so I think it helps maybe as well if you think to yourself, potentially that might be me she's talking to, or that Aaron's speaking about. Get around other people. Hang around people that you've never hung out before. Listen to what they're talking about, what they're doing. And then, if they're people that balance care with candor, which I spoke about earlier, then they're going to be people that are going to speak to you directly and challenge you to think differently, just like Rich Arriaga did that day. I didn't know him. I've never seen him again since. I don't know if I'll ever see him again. But the point is, he dropped something in my awareness that changed the way that I had thought for the whole of my life up to that point, as long as I can remember. And I'm still on a quest to figure out where it came from, because I want to be able to help people with the initiation, the bit where it started, where I was unaware, like you're talking about, Aaron. So to be continued. Maybe I'll need to come on your show again when I figure it out. I'll let you know.
So someone is asking, what are the chances for you to climb your way up in an environment that is actively structured to keep you down?
Wow. Well, my friend, I think, I don't know who you are because it says Facebook user, but I can guarantee you that your chances are 100%. Your chances are 100%. Why can I say that with confidence? I can't say it with confidence because of my own life. Like I told you, I grew up in the United States of America, which I'm convinced is still the greatest country in the world. That's where I grew up. So even though I had a fairly, not the best upbringing, one of my dearest friends was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting when I was only a teenager. So I didn't grow up on the best side of town, but compared to where my mother grew up, it was like, Buckingham Palace. I had running water and I had food every day, My mother tells stories about, because she was the youngest, she always got stuck eating either the chicken neck or the chicken feet. Okay, I didn't ever had to experience that. I never ate chicken feet, but she said they're tasty, but I don't want to try. But anyway, she got stuck eating the chicken feet or the chicken neck. Okay, so her life, my friend, was structured from her birth in Callao, Peru, that she was, she was going to be kept down. She wasn't going anywhere. Even her own father, my friend, said to her, "That's nice. Sit down, sweetie." Your own dad, may he rest in peace, abuelito. Your own dad didn't even believe his daughter's dream. And, he could have gone on trying to dissuade her. Just get a job, sweetie, or, go with your sister, Tia Elsa, and maybe she'll help you get a job at the bank. Because famously, my Tia Elsa got a job at the bank when she turned up at the bank in her nicest outfit and said, "I need to speak with the CEO." And he met with her and she got the job. So, and again, that was an impossibility. Okay, my friend, the environment that Tia Elsa and my mother grew up in was structured that everybody was going to live their life in the dirt that way. They were not going to go anywhere else. They were not going to do anything else. And in fact, when my grandmother began to plant these peppers and began to have success, people were angry about it. You would think people were supportive. You think people would be like, "We're so happy that one of us is rising up and, getting to build up our house and stuff." They were angry about it. Famously, my mother tells stories about how when her and her siblings used to go from one part of the community to the other part of the community, people used to throw rocks at them. So, I mean, I would say that observing her life and knowing my mother's story, the chances that you can climb your way up in an environment that is actively structured to keep you down are 100%, my friend. 100%. It's not going to be easy. It's uphill all the way, like John Maxwell always tells us. It's uphill all the way. For my mother, that was the case. It still is the case. She's still working hard every single day of her life. And I do, and Aaron is, like he said, no bank holidays for entrepreneurs, right? We're working hard. We're hustling, working hard every single day.
Show up every day. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just looking at some of my clients who are online at the moment, and I'm just wondering if you would have a word for people who are going through. Napoleon Hill talks about in every adversity is the seed of equivalent advantage, and I'm wondering when you talk about your mom and you talk about how she's come through adversity and created what she's created. What will be your key golden nuggets that one can use or that you may have learned or mined over the years that people can hold on to overcome adversity?
I was writing that one down. See, I'm here to learn as well, my friend. And every adversity is the seed of equivalent advantage. Napoleon Hill, love it. Thank you. I would say that keep moving. First of all, keep moving forward. Okay. My mother was a rock during this period when we were growing up. My parents got divorced. My father left. And, she was a stranger in a strange world. She, English as a second language. But she had that faith I spoke about in the acronym. And she just kept driving forward. Now, sometimes it was a crawl. Like the Reverend Martin Luther King said, Sometimes it comes down to a crawl. You're barely hanging on. But whatever you do, just keep moving forward. That forward movement is critical, because if you stop, you begin to spin your wheels, and you begin to take steps backwards, and then time passes, and then you begin to lose your dream. But she kept moving forward despite all the challenges. I never saw her cry. This is going to make me cry. I never saw her cry, Aaron, ever. She's the hard as nails lady. But I remember one day waking up in the middle of the night, and she, at this time, she was working 3 jobs, and she was going to school to become a registered nurse, which was a very full-time, which is a very demanding schedule. She had these massive books, like this thick, learning about, anatomy and physiology and all this stuff. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard this strange sound, a sound that I had never heard before. It was weeping. So I had never heard this sound before, because every single day I saw her, she had a great attitude, very positive, always pointing to God. We're going to do this. I heard a strange sound. I crept down the hallway. And I peeked in, and I could see her with like tons of books on her desk, and she was just on the books like this and was just sobbing. She was heaving with sobs. And I remember I was afraid because I'd never seen her cry before. So it was a new thing that I was seeing, and I was terrified. I was thinking, my goodness, like, what is this emotion I'm seeing from my mother? And I'm ashamed now, because I was a young child. I was probably 7, 8 years old, and I was her right hand. She still calls me that to this day, taking care of my siblings, cooking, doing all the things that needed to be done around the house to help her. But as her right hand, I failed her that day, because I crept backwards out of the door and just ran back to my room, and I went to sleep. And I never mentioned it. So she's watching this live, and now she knows that I know. But I have to say that it changed the way I felt about her. In other words, it made me believe then and understand then that she was human. She wasn't a robot. She was a human being, and that she was under an extraordinary amount of stress. But yet, she just kept moving forward. She woke up the next day, and it was like that night before never happened. And I don't know how many nights she went to sleep crying like that. I mean, that night she was unusually loud, and I never heard her again. But I don't know how many nights she went to sleep with tears on her pillow. But I do know that it was worth it. And it's worth it for any of you watching. It's worth it. Even if nobody ever says it, for us to push ourselves to become the greatest versions of ourselves. It's for us, but it's also for our children and for our legacy that we leave behind for the generations.
Wow, I'm not sure I can ask any more questions after that bout of vulnerability. I really do appreciate you really just opening up and just sharing that piece with us. And I think everyone who's going to watch this, there's so much they can learn from that, and there's always advantage in that comes from adversity, and someone is saying your mom is such a courageous, powerful, and strong woman, and we're grateful that someone like that showed up, such that someone like you can be who you are today and be a blessing to our world. And thanks, Heidi, for showing up. We're gonna have you here again. I'm sure we're gonna get to do so many great things over and over. I'm always doing something, and I mean, ever since the first time I met you, I admired your spirit. Very easy to talk to. I'm also praying that your husband gets well quickly. You have a powerful gift in your mom. Everyone, let's show Heidi's mom some love, and show Heidi some love, and just really thank her for coming to tell us her story. All right, people. We'll be here again next week, Monday. I don't know who's coming yet, but we'll always have a guest every Monday. Haiti, thanks for being so beautiful in and out, and just really being vulnerable. I really did wish you could even talk to us about vulnerability, because I tell my clients all the time, vulnerability is great strength. If only people
Yep.
understood that vulnerability actually is about strength, and that's what we all about. Yep, show people showing you all the love. I'm gonna allow you to take milk it. Please send her more love. Send her mom and Haiti all the appreciation. And that just also helps us to be better people, such that even our children can speak about us the way you lovingly talk about the impact your mom has made in your life. All right, everybody. Next week we'll be back here with a guest. Thanks, Haiti, one more time, and do
Thank you
have a
so
good
much for
evening.
your
Haiti,
time.
please send our gratitude to your husband and the kids for allowing us to spend this last hour together. God
I
bless
will do.
everybody, and bye.